Welcome to The Explainer. Every single time you go online, you're using something you've probably never even thought about, the Internet's address book. Today, we're going to explore how that book almost ran out of pages and the huge ongoing effort to prevent a digital apocalypse.
All right, so let's kick things off with a really big question, one that network engineers had to answer to stop the entire internet from grinding to a halt. What do you do when you have way more devices than you have addresses for them?
Okay, let's dive into this by first getting a handle on the absolute foundation of how data gets anywhere online, the IP address. Yeah, you can basically think of it as the internet's very own postal service. Imagine a little packet of your data is like a postcard. The IP address isn't its final destination. Nope. It's more like the address of the next post office on its route. You see, its only job is to answer one simple question. Okay, where do I go next?
And this is super important. We have to be clear on what an IP address is not. It's not some permanent ID for your phone or your laptop. It's definitely not a personal ID for you, and it is absolutely not a guarantee of security. It's just a temporary label for routing. That's it, nothing more.
Okay, so now that we've got that down, let's take a look at the original system, the one that was built for a much smaller and more experimental internet. And folks, this is where the big problem began. You see, the original internet protocol, which we call IPv4, used what's known as a 32-bit address. Now you have to remember, back when the internet was just a tiny little research project, that seemed like a huge amount of space.
And this number, this really gets to the heart of the problem. You see, a 32-bit system can only create about 4.3 billion unique addresses. That's just the math. And back in the 70s, that sounded like an infinite number. Turns out it really wasn't.
Because then the internet just exploded. All of a sudden, it wasn't just about a few computers in a lab. We had billions of smartphones popping up, then smartwatches, all these cloud servers, and this whole new universe of Internet of Things devices. Yeah. 4.3 billion addresses? Not even close to it.
So to try and hold off the inevitable disaster, some really smart engineers came up with some clever but complicated workarounds. The big one is called NAT, or Network Address Translation. The best way to think about it is like an apartment building with one single mailing address. All the mail goes to the front desk, right? And the person at the front desk knows exactly which apartment to take it to. Well, NAT does the same thing. It lets all the devices in your house, your phone, your laptop, your TV, all share one single public IP address.
So the internet was basically teetering on the edge of this massive address crisis. And all those clever patches, they were just band-aids. What was needed was a solution on an absolutely epic scale.
And that solution has a name, Internet Protocol version 6, or just IPv6. So if IPv4 was like having a 10-digit phone number where you can eventually run out of combinations, IPv6 is like having a phone number so ridiculously long that you could never ever run out. We're literally jumping from a world of scarcity with this 32-bit system to one of unbelievable abundance with a 128-bit system.
Okay, just look at this number. That's the whole point. That number is 340 undecillion. I don't even know what that really means. It's so big. To put it in perspective, that's enough addresses to give every single atom on the entire surface of the Earth its own unique IP address, and you'd still have plenty left over. It's, for all practical purposes, an infinite supply.
Right. So we've got this basically perfect solution just sitting there, a universe of new addresses. The obvious question is, why aren't we all using it yet? What's the holdup? Why is this great digital migration so incredibly slow?
So a lot of the why is right here in this table. Yeah, the address itself looks way more complicated, I get it, but the magic is that it makes the network itself so much simpler. You see, with IPv6, you don't need that NAT workaround anymore. It brings back this idea of a direct end-to-end connection between any two devices on the internet, and trust me, that's a really big deal.
But, and it's a big but, making that switch is incredibly slow and super expensive. You've got companies that have spent billions and billions of dollars on all this old equipment that only understands IPv4. And for you and me, the average person, there's no obvious benefit. Your favorite website still loads just fine, right? That's because the old system, with all its band-aids and workarounds, it still technically works.
All right, let's bring this all back home and talk about why this nerdy, technical shift actually matters to you, and specifically to something we all care about, our cybersecurity. Like, how does this affect staying safe online?
Okay, if you remember one thing about the security side of this, let it be this. NAT is not security. It was never ever designed to be a security tool. Sure, hiding all your stuff behind that one address, that front desk, it kind of feels like a security blanket, but it's really not.
Because in this new IPv6 world, that front desk, that NAT system, is just gone. Now, every single device in your home has its own front door and it's facing directly out onto the big public internet. Now, that isn't automatically less secure, but what it does mean is that the lock on each and every one of those doors, we're talking about the firewall and your devices and your router, becomes more important than ever. It's absolutely critical.
And once you get this, a lot of common cybersecurity terms start to make more sense. Like port scanning, that's just attackers literally knocking on all those new public front doors checking for an opening. And it also explains why just blocking an IP is a pretty weak defense. Why? Because those addresses are often temporary and they're shared by lots of people. The IP address just tells you where a connection came from, not who sent it.
And that, right there, is the huge mental shift that we're all living through right now. The old internet, IPv4, was all about surviving by managing scarcity. It was about hoarding addresses. The new internet, IPv6, it exists by completely eliminating scarcity. It's built on a foundation of pure abundance.
But at the end of the day, whether we're talking about the old system or the new one, the security of it all still comes down to us, to people setting things up the right way. Which brings us to a final, pretty important question to think about. In this new world of infinite addresses, where every single thing has its own front door, is that door more exposed than ever before? It's something we really have to think about as we keep moving forward in this great digital migration.